Welcome back to another episode of Life Rewired. I'm Rob.
And I'm Ashley.
And I'm Dawn.
Hi, Dawn. Dawn is going to be joining us today. She wrote a book called A Miracle a Day, One Day at a Time, and you can purchase this book on Amazon. Can you also get it in bookstores, Dawn?
Online. A lot of bookstores online.
Okay, good. So once you hear her story today, I encourage you to go out and buy this book. It's a very good read. I haven't read very many books since my injury, but this one was one that I could not put down. So I feel like I know you, Dawn. Welcome to the program. So we're going to go ahead and let you tell your story, and then at the end, we'll have a little chat.
Well, my name is Dawn Corbelli, and my daughter Veronica was 15, and we were just driving to Walmart, and about 2 miles from home, she had her permit, and we were pulling out from a stop sign, and a truck going 60. We were turning left, and they were coming straight at us, and there was no skid marks. They hit us at 60 miles an hour, and we were going about 5, so we were T-boned. And Veronica was in a coma for 2 weeks and on life support, and in the hospital for just over 3 months, learning how to do everything all over again, walking, talking, rolling over, all of it. I was in the hospital for 3 weeks. I have a moderate traumatic brain injury. Hers is severe. While I was in the hospital, I knew I had a horrible memory because I couldn't remember anything. Anybody asked me if they brought me a tray for breakfast, I didn't even know that I ate. So my husband would come in and ask me what I had, and I didn't know. I forget what I'm saying in the middle of saying it. So if I stall, that's my brain injury. I have a poor memory. I process more slowly. So if I stop and I'm not talking, it's because my brain has stopped. I lost my memory for about 7 weeks. And part of that was part of the pain medicine they put me on, because I had 6 breaks in my pelvis. And my daughter had 8 breaks in her pelvis, 2 broken hips, a sheared brainstem, a bruised frontal lobe, broken left ankle, and a paralyzed left side, which now she's 31, and we go to high schools, and we were told she would likely remain in a vegetative state and find a nursing home for her, but we didn't. And she just kept getting better and better. And now she's 31, and tomorrow we're going to a high school to teach students about brain injuries. We team teach, and we've taught over 35 classes, over 1,000 people, teachers, counselors. So I'm really, really happy about that. So Veronica was in, I jump around a lot. Veronica was in physical, occupational, and speech therapy for probably a year and a half. And I was in therapy, and I couldn't drive or really do a whole lot of stuff. So I had to get therapy at home. And when I was getting therapy at home, we were told that if I was too sick and had to stay home, then I was not allowed to go visit my daughter in the hospital. We fought that and won, because I told them if I can't see my daughter, I'm not going to get better. I felt like my heart was crushed. And when we were in the hospital, I kept forgetting what happened to her. And my husband would come every day, and he would just go between my room and her room. And I guess he had to tell me the story every day for almost the whole time that I was in the hospital, because I kept forgetting what happened to her. That's our accident, but we're 16 years out now, and life is really good now. But we went through a long period of time where we didn't have any friends, because Veronica became extremely sexual. We're both really unfiltered, and People step away from you when you act differently than you used to, in a way that they might not have been friends with you if you acted like that in the beginning. So when we're teaching, we teach empathy and compassion, even though the kids are 14, 15, 16, and it's really hard for them. But I take a video of her in the hospital after we tell our whole, we have a slideshow and we tell stories and all more than just what the slideshow says. And then we put the video on that shows when she can't do anything in the hospital and when
Mm.
I want to add more to the video, but it went from a vegetative state to a minimally conscious state. And we don't even have her when she became conscious, but the kids see that. And I think it gives them more realization about what happened to her, because to see her standing in front of a class, it doesn't seem like anything was ever wrong with her. Wrong with her. I
Yeah.
don't like how that sounds. Injured.
Yeah.
Right.
So
We
Did
understand what you mean.
did they ever find the driver, or did the driver stop, or what happened with that?
the driver hit us. It was actually our fault because we were driving out from the stop sign. What my husband thinks happened is there was a semi turning right, and that truck was probably right behind the semi going 60 miles an hour and probably didn't know we were pulling out because it was at the last minute. That truck turned and we went forward, and they got a permanent bruise and a couple $1,000s. But they were really nice. They called the hospital all the time to make sure Veronica was doing okay. And
Yeah.
somebody found us right after the accident. They got into the car, into my purse, and took the phone out. And I had my husband's phone number in there, but I didn't have it marked as emergency or anything. And they called my husband, and so he could get to the accident site really fast. And I never knew who that was for such a long time. And then we did finally meet him a couple years after.
And you did find out who that was, right?
We did, but honestly, it was so soon after the accident, I don't remember their name.
But that's understandable, though. One thing I was going to ask you about was the police officer that came to the hospital.
Okay, police kept calling the hospital over and over, and then um, they I guess they came now and then too, to see how Veronica was. But now in the end, I don't really think they were interested in as much in how Veronica was as in finding out if she was conscious enough to take the ticket. Because when they did finally come, I was in the room, and Veronica actually thought that they were there to put another cast on her arm because it really hurt when she got her casts. And her mentality was like a toddler, and she thought she was in trouble. And they gave the ticket, and I was in the room and I was crying really hard because it was just me and her, and I didn't understand what was going on. And then later, after he left, my husband and our neuropsychologist came and said, I can't believe they did that without a nurse or somebody in the room with you. They never should have. Another time that I shouldn't have been the one being spoken to was when I got out of the hospital. My dad was staying with us, and my husband wasn't home. He still had to work, and well, he worked some of the time, and then he had a computer he brought to the hospital. But we were at home, and my dad was with me, and the phone rang, and I answered it, and it was Veronica's doctor. And he said, I'm sorry to tell you, I don't think she's ever going to become self-sufficient. And I didn't take that well. I think I got off the phone really fast because the part that I remember is standing in front of my dad using a lot of F-bombs and saying, he's not God. He's not God. He doesn't get to choose how well she heals. And after I gave it to God on that day, everything turned around. Every day, something more would happen with Veronica that she was capable of doing. I mean, even in a minimally conscious state. She was like snapping her fingers, and we would ask her to do it over and over. It took her a really long time to respond, but she still did it. And we celebrated every little thing that she did. It's funny because we told her the whole time, she's beautiful, she's perfect. We always told her she was perfect. And now we're 16 years later and she walks around, I know I'm perfect. And her hypothalamus was damaged, and she gained almost 90 pounds after the accident because your hypothalamus controls your appetite and your metabolism, also your body temperature. But at first, she couldn't feel if she was full, and she would eat and forget she ate and still feel hungry. And we'd give her more food. And in the beginning, she had lost 20 pounds. So we were really willing to give her all this food. But then she started gaining 4.5 pounds a week until she had gained 70 pounds in a very fast, it was a very fast time. And even at her heaviest, she still knew she was beautiful. So she re she re grew up loving herself. That's a good thing.
That's awesome.
She wanted to prove that doctor wrong, didn't she?
Yes. Yes. You know what? She said she laid in bed, and when we would talk to her and she couldn't talk for over 2 months, she heard us. And it was so frustrating because she couldn't talk to us. She said she felt, um, oh, I forgot what she said. Like she was locked inside, and it was frustrating for her. And she kept telling herself all the time, I have to get better. There's people counting on me, which I guess that's a good reason. But I mean, you'd always hope it was because she wanted to for herself too. But at the time, she said it was for us.
What does Veronica do now? Like, is she employed or did she go to
Veronica,
college? Like, what?
she took a college class. She had adenomia pretty badly. It's lack of motivation and initiation. Where she can do things, this is why she doesn't work either. She can do things even well that people ask her to do, but then she stands there and waits to be told what to do. It's like
Hmm.
she does what she's supposed to, and then she just stops and stands there and waits for direction. So she's unable to work. But I have to say, we had her in a treatment. It's called MERT. It's a capital M, a little E, a capital R, and a capital T. And I can't remember what the full name of it is, but it's where there's magnets in a cap, and they're put specifically, like they have something called TMS, transcranial magnetic, I don't remember.
Oh, magnetic resonance therapy is what it says it
Yes,
stands for. It's a
yes, that
transcranial magnetic stimulation or TMS.
yes, that one is for depression, and they have all the magnets in the little cap in the same place for everybody because it's the same place in your brain that controls depression in everybody, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think that all I
Right.
know is they're all in the same place for that treatment. But in MERT, they're specifically aligned for the person. They take your brain waves and they do treatments for like a week, and then they look at how everything turned out and actually look at the brain waves that they want to move to a different spot. Veronica had brain waves that showed she was sleeping when she was really awake, and they wanted to move those waves. And after, you're supposed to go for 6 weeks, 5 days a week. But we did that for a month, but then it was really hard to get her there every day. And I was suffering because it's hard to do that every single day. And I have bipolar disorder, and it was just too much for me. Getting ready, driving there, staying there for the half hour. and leaving. It doesn't sound like a big deal, but it felt like a big deal. And so for the last 2 weeks, we only went a couple times a week, but we actually saw in the last testing that they did that that brain wave actually moved on the chart. And then she slept
Wow.
for weeks, or weeks and weeks, months and months and months, probably 5 months, maybe more. And she would take 2 to 3 naps a day, 2 hours at a time. And I kept taking her to the doctor. Is she anemic? Is it her thyroid? Because she has a thyroid disorder. Is it a disease? Like, what is making her so tired? And they kept saying, she's fine, she's healthy, nothing's wrong. I said, she's sleeping her life away. This doesn't make sense. And then one day she woke up and she had a new light. She was brighter and she was saying bigger words and she was awake a lot more. And she can write in a way that she's not able to speak. Because when she speaks, she doesn't sound sophisticated. But when she writes, she sounds so intelligent. She uses big words. She puts her sentences together properly. She's actually right now trying to write a book. She said, I'm writing my memoir. She has spiral notebook after spiral notebook filled. Every morning for hours, she gets up and she writes and writes. And she just got a computer now so she had one, but it broke. And she got a new one so she can start typing it into the computer.
That was going to be a question I was going to ask you, is if she's planning on writing a book, and you answered that for me.
Well, I have to say, for a while, she did write and she got 50 pages in on the computer and she stopped because she has confabulation. And you might know what that is. I'll tell everybody. It's where you have like a Swiss cheese memory from being injured. Your memory has holes in it, and your brain actually fills in those holes with false information. And she was so worried that a lot of the stuff she wrote didn't even happen, so she stopped writing. But she's writing again, and it's going to be her story. You asked about school. Um, she tried to take a college class, but she lost interest really quickly. That's part of adenamia. You want to do something so badly. We would prepare, we would spend money, we would get her ready to do all these things. And then she would say, never mind, I don't want it. And so her dad sort of helped her finish the class, and she hasn't taken a class since then. And she can't drive. She gets the gas and the brakes mixed up, but even if she didn't, she's very impulsive and she gets angry like that. And what she does, even when I'm driving, is her middle finger's flying around and she's yelling at the drivers around me, so she can't drive. I always tell her she can't do that because not everybody's nice. Um, she lives at home and we have guardianship of her also because um, she had a boyfriend and he was going to take her to a different state and they were going to get married and they were going to try and have kids, and she can't take care of herself. Like, she has very poor decision making skills, and when we were in court they asked her, what would you do if you guys got in a fight and he left you in another state? She's like, I would call my dad. All the time she needs help. And even, this is funny, this happened after the book. We were in court, and I was in the um, on the stand, and they were asking me questions. And she wasn't taking her medicine regularly for her mood mood control and anger and stuff when she was with that man. And I was telling the judge that because he asked me, does she take her medicine when she's not with you? Well, no, she didn't like that. But then all of a sudden she banged on the table, bang. And everybody looked at her. And the judge, she said, I object. And the judge said, do you really object? And she said, no, Please close the door. Are you okay? Yes, I'm banging on the chair. Banging. I bang, or she banged on it, and she goes, "No, I don't object. I watch SVU all the time. You know, what is that called? As
Law and Order SVU, yeah.
Yes, Law and Order SVU, and I always wanted to do that." And then the
Those
judge
are worked.
just started laughing, and he's like, "Well, we don't do that in here." Um, like I made a loud noise. Veronica is continually afraid that something is going to happen to somebody in her family. Like I dropped a blow dryer one day. She came in to my room crying. She gets very panicked when she thinks something may have happened to us. So she came in the room. She had to check, make sure everything was okay.